Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So those of you who've seen my shop videos are used to seeing my late 1990s YZ125 on the table behind me. Or you used to see that YZ125 on the table behind me. Now it's been up there since the spring. I've had other projects and I haven't been able to get to it. But some of my other projects are done and I figured it's time to actually tear into this thing for the second time. And I say for the second time because I bought this bike for my son, one of my sons, a few years ago. He had a little bit of fun with it. It was clapped out when we got it. I had no idea just how clapped out it was until I tore into it. So let's take a look at where we are right now. All right, here's the bike, or what's left of the bike. Where's the frame and all the rest of it? Well, here's the frame on the bench. Got some of the brake parts over there. My shock, which I think is pretty well done. The radiators, which are in decent shape. Here's what's left of the engine, which has been quite the interesting experience. And then here's a swing arm, which I just took off, and I wonder, geez, do you think those bearings are bad? So what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna go from this 125 to a 144 with an Athena kit. And what prompted that was the wrist pin bearing self-destructing, chewing up my piston, chewing up my cylinder, chewing up my cylinder head. Not worth fooling with. All of that being said, I've got a really good crank here with no play in it at all. But however, when you've got one bearing that self-destructs like that, others are likely to follow. So we are going to rebuild this engine. We're going to make it a brand new 144. We're going to clean up the swing arm and replace all the bearings. We're going to paint the frame. We're going to replace anything that needs to be replaced there. And we're going to have a really nice bike when we're done. Here's my transmission on the bench, and this is one of the annoying things we're going to try to fix. This is the countershaft sprocket, and you can see that there's barely any threads on it. So we're going to try to cut some new threads on there because I don't want to have to get a new transmission, and we'll see how that goes. Now what's interesting again is some of the parts on this bike were really good, and some of them are clapped out. I told you the crank seems to be fantastic, but in it this far and going with a 144, I'm going to go with a new crank. Clutch is in decent condition. I replaced the water pump the first time around, so I know that's good. This thing is just a mix-up of good parts and bad. Now, all of the bearings being as bad as they are just tells you that this was never really taken care of, and it'll be an interesting project. So why did I call this part 2? Well, when I bought this bike, I knew it was a piece of junk. And maybe this has happened to some of you when you have a lot of motorcycles. Yeah, every once in a while you get a clunker, and every once in a while you let your emotions get the best of you. Now, when we bought this bike, 125s were hard to find. In fact, I looked for a long time. I knew this thing needed work. My son at the time was probably like 15 years old. I was like, this is a really good father-son project. And I knew the wheel bearings were bad. I knew the tires were bad. Engine was on the fence. You know, it ran, but I could tell that it needed some work. The bars were bent, the brakes didn't work well. In fact, the brake pads were completely shot. So I ended up replacing all of that stuff and all of the plastic and getting to the point where the bike was actually rideable for a while. But I knew there was more lurking. Now, would I have bought that bike for myself? Absolutely not. But would I do it all again? Yeah, I would. Why? Because the father-son component of this made it all worthwhile for me. In fact, I've got a scar on one of my fingers that I got from trying to straighten out the wheel when we first got it. Wrench slipped, ripped my finger open, bounced it off of my head. And my son and I laugh about that to this day. Could have been ugly. So in any case, no regrets, and let's see what happens when this thing is done. But now, all of that said and done, this is going to be my main bike. That's one of the reasons I'm going up to the 144. I want a little bit more lug out of it. And will I ever get back what I have into it? Probably not. I mean, when you look at the original investment, which was not a lot, under $1,000, The parts that I put on it back then, you know, the tires, all the bearings, bars, plastic and stuff, you know, another probably easy 500 bucks there. And I'm going to probably be an easy another 1,000 into this, you know. So when I'm all done and I've got a really tight, brand new, I think it's a 2000 or a 99 125, you know, am I going to get 3,500 bucks for it? Maybe on a good day, but I'm just going to ride this thing. This is going to be my rider. Am I going to race it? No, no more racing for me, but it's going to be a nice bike to have a lot of fun with. So I'm going to video as we go along, and I think this will be an interesting series, so stay tuned, and thanks for watching.